The space race of the 1960s was a fast one. Who would get there first was the question. The cosmonauts or the astronauts? Well, it was actually a dog. But the moon was a different matter. It was much bigger. And when Buzz Aldrin uttered those most immortal words, "No, Neil, after you," America became the kings and queens of outer space. And they would be certainly no stranger to seeing this from their rocket ship windows. Well, obviously not this globe. This isn't to scale, it's a much larger arrangement, of course. Join with me now, then, as we examine this fascinating documentary about a fascinating subject, outer space, entitled Beyond the Moon. Enjoy. Oh, obviously it's not called Beyond the Moon, Enjoy. There's space in between those words. When Orville and Wilbur Wright first invented the aeroplane in 1898, I wonder if they realised that exactly 104 years later, the Apollo 11 would land on the moon and Neil Armstrong would plant the American flag on its soil. Highly unlikely. That sort of detail, particularly knowing Neil Armstrong's name, would have required enormous precognitive ability. But despite the Wright brothers' ignorance of things to come, they happened anyway. $300 billion poured into the space program over the last 25 years. Money which could have been used to purchase loaves of bread for the starving. In fact, $300 billion would have purchased enough bread to stretch, ironically, from here to the moon. Even more ironically, rockets would have to have been used to take the bread out that far into space. Rockets which would not have been available due to the money for their manufacture being spent on the original purchase of the bread. Not only that, but the starving would not have benefited from the purchase of the bread owing to the wasteful use of that bread in the construction of the Earth-Moon Bridge. In any event, most of the loaves would have been stale by the time the unavailable rockets had brought them back to Earth or burned up on re-entry. And you can't feed the starving stale toast. Not without a condiment anyway. And unfortunately, the space program has only so much money. Jam alone costs almost $2.30 a jar. It would take the defence budgets of several United States of Americas to spread that much preserve on a dismantled and stale Earth-Moon toast bridge, even half that size. An inedible testament to man's thoughtlessness. As are these. Until next week, then. Until next week, then, this is Dave McGahan saying good night.